What's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about the top 10 best Mr. Sinister clones. There's also a power core giveaway in the comment section of this video, as well as a big power core giveaway coming in a future video, so make sure to catch the end of this video for info on how to enter and to hear the honorable mentions that almost made this list. For now, I'd love to jump right into the top 10 best Mr. Sinister clones, but before we can do that, however, I want to quickly explain where the stats for the clones come from, as well as mention a very important, possibly unintended interaction that makes a handful of characters instantly become the best choices to clone. So I'll break this video into 3 sections with timestamps in the description. Section 1, clone stats, where they come from, and how to take advantage of some current questionable coding. Section 2, the top 10 best clones, and Section 3, the power core giveaway, the honorable mentions, and the Lootcakes details. So first, let's discuss where the clone stats come from. To begin, I want to dispel a few rumors. Rumor number 1, the clones get their stats based on a percentage of Mr. Sinister stats. That's a no, that's not how it works. Rumor number 2, the clones get their stats based on the enemy, the stronger the clone. Again, that's not how it works. So how does it work? Allow me to explain. So when Mr. Sinister clones a character, what he's actually doing is generating a brand new version of the character he's cloning. The clone will directly translate the stars, red stars, gear tier, and character level from Mr. Sinister. This means if you clone a Rocket Raccoon with your 5 gold star, 3 red star, gear tier 10, level 69 Mr. Sinister, you're creating a 5 gold star, 3 red star, gear tier 10, level 69 Rocket Raccoon. Now if that sounds overpowered, there's more to it. Once that fresh version of the character's created, their stats get a clone reduction, which reduces their max health by 70% and their damage by 30%. Clones also spawn with 2 turns of defense up, and they spawn with 90% speed bar. Note that their focus, resistance, armor, speed, etc. aren't reduced at all. This means that cloning tankier characters or characters with more utility is generally the best practice. So what about their abilities? This one's a tiny bit confusing. So Mr. Sinister's ultimate ability level determines the ability level of his clones' basic, special, and ultimate. However, clones get their passive ability level from Mr. Sinister's passive ability level. This means that a 6664 Mr. Sinister creates 6664 clones, but a 6673 Mr. Sinister creates 7773 clones. So that's how clones work, so we can get to the list now, right? Wrong. We also have to talk about one particular interaction that I'd guess the devs didn't intend for that makes certain clones, well, broken OP. And that interaction revolves around health passives. So as I mentioned earlier, clones get a stat reduction that reduces their max health by 70% and their damage by 30%. However, for some reason, passives that grant percent max health apply after that stat reduction, but they're based on the original non-reduced max health amount. What I mean is that, for example, Phoenix's passive grants herself plus 30% max health, so first her health is reduced down to 30%, but then she gains another full 30% max health from her passive because it's based on the original full amount, making a Phoenix clone literally twice as tanky as a normal clone. But it gets better. This is also true of ally passives. This means if you clone a Phoenix and you already have a Phoenix on the team, her health gets reduced to 30%, then her passive grants her 30%, then your original Phoenix grants her another 30% because she's an X-Men ally, which makes her 3 times as tanky as a normal clone. To give some sample numbers, Phoenix has the exact same amount of health as Yondu, except that she gains 30% from her passive. If you cloned Yondu with a fully maxed out Mr. Sinister, that Yondu clone would have 45,327 health. If you cloned Phoenix with the same Mr. Sinister, and you already had a Phoenix on your team, that Phoenix clone would have 135,982 health. That is, of course, a huge difference. So for this list, we will be factoring in health passives working as they currently do, and we will also be assuming that these clones are joining the current Marauder team, and I'll specify when certain clones additionally benefit from having other specific allies. But enough study time, on to the list. Coming in at number 10, the Incredible Hulk. So Hulk is actually a deceptively good clone for a few reasons. For one, he's tanky, and anytime you can clone a clone that's actually gonna stay on the field, that's obviously more valuable than cloning a rocket that's gonna die in 1 or 2 hits. So Hulk, very tanky, that's good, and of course he gets the 2 turns of defense up from being a clone. However, another good thing about Hulk is his damage isn't reduced that much, so it doesn't take much to knock him below 50%, which means that it's easy to get him free extra turns. However, because of how much his health has been reduced, it's easy to heal him back above 50%. The normal cadence, if you summon a cloned Hulk, he gets 90% speed bar, so he'll go right away, he'll attack. Even just splash damage or a chain can be enough to knock him below 50%. He'll immediately take a turn with offense up, do more damage. As soon as Sinister takes his very next turn, he heals him back all the way to full, and then something else will knock him below 50 and he'll go again. He naturally gives himself death proof. There's just so many perks, but at the end of the day, you get a ton of free turns out of a cloned Hulk because he still has most of his damage, but it's easy to keep knocking him below and healing him back above 50%. Coming in at number 9, Minerva. Not too much to say here. Minerva is awesome, and a lot of her abilities don't really rely on her raw stats. Her passive healing is of course going to be a lot worse. However, turn 1, you still have your choice of either an ult or the special. If someone is already dead and you clone a Minerva, you can just immediately have Minerva revive your dead ally. It works just like normal. They still get the 2 death proof. They still get the full 40% health on revive. It's great. You can go with the ult. The ult still steals 15% of the enemy max health and gives it to your team. So while the bleeds are a little bit worse, they're not even that much worse. Minerva's just a strong pick. Even though her passive is of less value, those first couple of turns are still incredibly impactful. Coming in at number 8, Scarlet Witch. And you'll start to notice a trend here. A lot of the characters on this list are utility picks, and it's, well, for reasons like this. So for starters, Scarlet Witch has the ability to take advantage of that interesting health calculation we mentioned earlier. If you have a Ghost Rider on the team, she can gain 40% max health and 30% focus from him. And then as soon as she hits the field, she can extend all debuffs. So if you've just used Mystique and Sabretooth from the Marauder team, Sabretooth would just put a bunch of bleeds on everyone. If you use the Mystique special, she'll flip a bunch of buffs into debuffs on all the enemies, so they're already coated in red. She'll just extend everything 1 turn, it works great. Her health rebalance, still very, very strong. The deflects, the defense up, all really, really good. Her passive for spreading debuffs, still terrific. And she will not only always debuff with the basic attack, but a lot of times you get the assist from the clones, and she's going to assist a lot. You'll always get the debuff from the assist. So just terrific utility. She's an awesome clone. Coming in at number 7, Kingpin. As we mentioned, tankier characters are better. Kingpin, very, very tanky, and of course he's going to spawn with 2 turns of defense up, so he'll stick around. Especially on the Marauder team, he has that amazing villain synergy, so you're going to get tons and tons of additional assists. His ult, still amazing, doesn't matter about a health reduction, he's still 2-turn defense up and offense up for the entire team, which is very useful. And interestingly, because clones spawn with 90% speed bar, and because Mr. Sinister takes his first turn at 100 speed, a cloned Kingpin will actually go earlier than a normal Kingpin would. So it's all the perks of actually using your own Kingpin with less health, but he's got 2-turn defense up anyway. It's not going to be an issue. It still takes a while to kill Kingpin, so he's a super solid pick. Coming in at number 6, Ultron. I don't really need to explain this one, guys. It's Ultron. Coming in at number 5, Invisible Woman. So as we mentioned earlier about taking advantage of that funky health calculation, in addition to, of course, being an awesome character, Invisible Woman gives herself an additional 20% max health. So she'll already be a good bit tankier than a normal clone, and if you already have an Invisible Woman on your team, then she'll get a total bonus of an extra 40% health, which means that she'll be at 70% of her normal health, which is very, very useful. She's a very durable clone, and of course, all of her abilities are very impactful. While her barriers won't be quite as strong, they'll still be decently strong, and you're still gonna coat the entire enemy team in 2 turns of offense down. Her special is still gonna apply the defense ups and cleanse all the debuffs and take people out of stealth. She still has all of her utility, and that health reduction doesn't really hurt her at all, and she's protected really well. So she's a super solid character and an excellent clone. Coming in at number 4, Sabretooth. So Sabretooth is a really strong character to clone for a few reasons. Again, you can take advantage of the funky health calculations. He's gonna get an extra 20% from Mr. Sinister in addition to 50% focus. If you have Magneto on the team, he'll get another 30% health plus 50% focus, so he'll be a really tanky clone. And he even gets a damage boost. If you have 5 additional Brotherhood or Marauder characters already on the field, he'll get an extra 25% damage, and because of his passive and all of the Marauder allies, he's gonna get a lot of free extra attacks. So anytime you would normally have your Sabretooth attack, you're now getting double Sabretooth passives. And again, the damage reduction is only about 30%, so you're still getting great value on all those free attacks just by having Sabretooth there. And again, in addition to being a very durable clone, he also gives himself death proof, so he's really good at staying on the field. Coming in at number 3, Mystique. For all of the reasons mentioned below, Mystique is also a really awesome character to clone. She has the synergy with both Magneto and Mr. Sinister, so she can get 20% health and 50% focus from Sinister, and she can get 30% health and 50% focus from Magneto. In addition, with Sinister, she'll refresh all the positive effects on her basic, and it's an additional character who can transfer buffs to Mr. Sinister. So you can have 2 different Mystiques, copy a lot of strong buffs from 2 different characters, put them all on Mr. Sinister, and have them then shared with the entire team. And again, she gets that awesome buff flip on special, so you get basically a mini Doctor Strange Winds of Watoomb just by having Mystique. And of course, if you have 2 Mystiques, then you can run that back to back. It's very powerful. And if you have Magneto on the team, it makes her special unavoidable, and it makes her basic copy all buffs, which is of course incredibly powerful. And she naturally gives herself evade, plus her ultimate is really powerful because it makes the enemies hit one another, so it isn't really determined by her damage at all. Still incredibly powerful, she's still really fast, and yeah, she's an absolutely awesome clone. Coming in at number 2, Phoenix. So Phoenix is an interesting one. We already talked about her a little bit. She is gonna get that 30% health, so she'll be twice as tanky as a normal clone. She also gives herself plus 30% damage, so she hits really hard. You can run her with an ally Phoenix on your team, so she'll get an extra 60% health and an extra 60% damage. And for those of you that weren't aware, she does still summon Dark Phoenix, and that Dark Phoenix, while slightly weaker than a normal Dark Phoenix, is still very strong. In addition to all of the synergy, it's Phoenix. She can steal health and distribute it to mutant allies. She has Dispel with every assist, which is she's going to be constantly getting called for. And of course, as soon as Dark Phoenix is on the field, you've got the multi-turn defense downs, you've got the Dark Phoenix ult. It's just all very powerful stuff. And finally, coming in at number 1, Magneto. For all the reasons previously mentioned, Magneto is of course an amazing clone. He will get the extra 30% health and 50% focus from himself. If there's an ally Magneto, like Phoenix, he'll get the extra 60% health, but he'll get an extra 100% focus, and he still does all the things that Magneto does. Not only is he gonna make your existing Sabretooth and Mystique stronger, assuming that you're running the Marauder team, but as soon as he arrives on turn 1, his own passive will give him the rest of the speed bar he needs to go immediately after he's been cloned. And of course, as soon as he fires off that turn 1, you've used a blind on all the enemies. The beauty here is that the cadence times out really well, where, for example, an enemy Phoenix will have already gone. So these blinds are gonna apply, and one of the best characters to remove all of that has already taken their turn. So these blinds are gonna stick. His turn 2, again, amazing. You've got the full buff removal, you've got the Dispel, and every basic is gonna hit multiple targets. He's just a really strong pick for all the reasons that he was already a really strong character. So there you have it. my top 10 picks for the best Mr. Sinister clones. So now I want to tell you guys all about the Power Core giveaway on this video, a really big Power Core giveaway coming up in a future video, and why I'm able to do these Power Core giveaways, Lootcakes. Also, stick around till the very end for a few honorable mentions that almost made this list. What is Lootcakes, you ask? Well, Lootcakes is a website where you earn free points anytime you spend any money in the Google Play Store, the iTunes App Store, or on Steam. And those points are redeemable for Google Play and iTunes gift cards, among other things. But don't worry, if you're a free-to-play player, you can join a Lootcakes Alliance and earn points based on any purchases that members of your Lootcake Alliance make. Yes, that's right. Even as a free-to-play player, you can earn free Google Play and iTunes codes just by joining a Lootcakes Alliance. Even free-to-play spending data is useful data, and it's all completely free, and they will even retroactively award you points for purchases you've made going as far back as 6 months. Basically, they study consumer data and use it to help mobile game developers find VIPs. The TLDR, if you share your mobile game purchase history with Lootcakes, they'll give you free points towards Google Play or iTunes gift cards. It really is that simple. Lootcakes Alliances max out at 300 members, and we've already completely filled our first one. So there's a second one started, so once you've signed up, make sure you apply to twitch.tv/Khasino2 because the first alliance is full and I won't be able to let you in. When the second one is full, we will start a third and we'll keep the free power cores rolling in. Unfortunately, as Lootcakes is in beta, it is only available to US residents at this time, though they do have plans to open it up to other regions later on. Lootcakes made this channel a special offer, so we're earning extra for each person that joins via the referral link in the video description below. So even if you don't particularly care, it helps the channel out if you sign up. As a way to give back, I'll be doing a $25 Power Core giveaway in the comment section below. All you have to do is include somewhere in your comment your favorite type of cake. In addition, if we get 100 total signups by the next video, I'll do another $20 Power Core giveaway. If we get 200 total signups, I'll do a $50 Power Core giveaway. If we get 400 signups, I'll give away $100 worth of Power Cores. And if somehow we get 1,000 signups, I will give away $250 worth of Power Cores. And very quickly, I just wanted to bring up some honorable mentions that still make really good clones. They just didn't quite make the top 10 for me. In no particular order, you've got Hela, who makes an excellent clone. Not only do you get Hela, but you also get her undead Asgardian Greg, and therefore you have the choice on her first turn. You can either apply the Disrupted and heal block, or you can go with her ultimate, which does decent damage and will spread a ton of debuffs. Very powerful. You've got Loki, who on turn 1 is going to do a ton of damage to the enemies because he's going to get a 2-turn defense down on someone, and then the enemies are going to hit each other. So his damage reduction, it doesn't even matter, still gonna do great damage. Then on the very next turn, he's gonna be able to summon a bunch of his Loki mirror images, and he's gonna put everyone in stealth, so he's gonna waste a bunch of enemy turns. Very valuable. You've got Nick Fury, who's of course awesome. He'll bring his own summons, and if you have the operative summons on the field and they pull any good buffs, on his very next turn, he can spread them and share with the entire team, which is very powerful. You've got Agent Coulson, who on turn 1, similar to Loki, is going to do a ton of damage to one target, and it's mainly gonna be based on the other members of your team, so his damage reduction doesn't really matter. You also have his special, which you can use to remove a ton of enemy buffs. Very powerful. You've got Groot, who is decently tanky, and right away he can either cleanse and remove a bunch of debuffs from your team or apply defense ups and death proofs. Very good. And then lastly, you have Graviton, who I also really like because more than anything else, Graviton's passive does a lot of work on the Marauders. There's already a lot of debuffs, and just by having Graviton there, anyone that drops below 50%, they're gonna have their debuffs extended. Very powerful. If you're running the Magneto version of the Marauders, they'll all be clumped up, so he'll get a slow on basically all the enemies. He's got a targeted stun ready to go, and his focus isn't reduced at all. So yeah, just a lot of really good options. So those are some of the honorable mentions I wanted to throw in. So that's all I've got for you today. Check out Lootcakes via the link in the video description below, and let me know your favorite kind of cake to enter the Power Core giveaway, and let me know which Mr. Sinister clone you think is the best. Otherwise, I will see you guys real soon. Until then,